G'day everybody. For today's video, I am going to take you through every single card that is going to be in the Double Tap Season 1 deck. So this is going to have all of your units and your upgrades and your tactical mission cards. Crowdfunding should launch for this within the next week, hopefully. I'm just waiting for the advanced copy of the deck to arrive from the factory because I want to ensure quality. I mean, I call this crowdfunding, but it's effectively like it's a pre-order. Like there's no bells and whistles. It's just for the deck. The rules are out there for free. Anyway, let's jump into it. So this is what you're going to get from the factory. Will be a deck of cards. And when you're putting together your force, this is an example force. You have 45 points. Specialists are these ones with the artwork. And these characters, you can only have one of those of each name. And then you've got henchmen. This is they have like a generic name. You can have as many as those you want. So if you want, you can have 10 recons, which would be 30 points. Then you got upgrades. You can only have one of each upgrade. And the tactical, each force has one tactical mission card. So you'll notice here on the upgrade card, you got these little arrows. This means that this is applying this benefit to this unit and then this benefit to this unit here. You've also got the specialists from all different factions like Corp, Kaltoran, Nephilim, Legion, etc. You can mix and match whatever you want. I here have basically created the quintessential team of Rachel Swagger and Max and stuff from the short stories in Fragged Empire. But the advantage that you do get is if you stick to a particular faction. So let's say you do a Corp heavy team with like 4 Corp specialists. The player with the most specialists of a single faction becomes the top dog. And that gives them the advantage that they get to pick the deployment edge. They get to decide and who goes first in the game. So it's a pretty significant advantage. But if you go hard trying to get top dog, you will lose that ability to pick and choose from all the different factions to get the strong synergy there. Let's jump into it. So first off the bat, we've got the corporation. So the Corp have a very strong theme of reliance on allies. They also give like a lot of free movement. They can trigger allies' reactions. You're going to want a bunch of henchmen to hold the line because they don't have that much health. They love to be in charge, and they love to be in charge from the back line. Okay, so this is the Suave Administrator. This is a fantastic card, in my opinion. He's one of my favorite. The main reason you want him is because he has this ability here with his pistol. He allows 2 allies to move 4. So he moves up 5 and then 2 allies move 4. And this is an excellent way of getting your army, your force off your deployment edge and into capturing objectives and taking good locations for like covering fire and stuff like that. He's also an excellent counter melee unit because well, one, his reaction is short range and it's 3d6. Okay, that's pretty good, but it's very short range. But this monomolecular razor action here has a 66 attack, but it causes damage on a 5+. So standardly you cause damage on a 6. So he's effectively rolling 12d6 with the damage, which is huge. An average attack is 5d6, but it's crippled by this tiny move distance. You either need to give him an upgrade that gives him additional movement or just rely on him being an anti-melee. So you might be charged by someone in melee, and then as soon as it's his turn, he'll just cut them in half. Okay, so I love the Suave Administrator. We've then got the Brutal Fixer. Quite an expensive unit for the various actions. Don't deal a huge amount of damage. Do your job can be good if you've got the right units to give reactions to. So maybe you've got some heavy machine gunners or some snipers or some soldiers to sort of, that could become quite a solid action. Market domination there is really just for the move. It's the charge up and seizing a location, or when you really need to move. Very low health for 3, but of course you're all staring at a bribe. So if once you've captured 2 objectives, you just get to steal an enemy henchman. So she has no reaction, but she has just excellent ability. Don't just you want to take the henchman that is either gonna give you like the most offensive value, so maybe a decent health henchman with a good reaction, like a heavy machine gunner, could be a solid choice. Or if you want to remove a very key part of your enemy's tactical plan by like maybe removing an agent henchman or something like that that they were really relying on, or very good unit. Okay, your enemy is going to play to this. Okay, next one is the Neon Hacker. Much more solid all-rounder. Her big thing is she doesn't require line of sight. She also has the highest move action in the game, so she's great for charging up, getting into the perfect location, and then just sitting back and then relying on her reaction and her stream hacker to just sit behind a wall or a building or something and just poke at the enemy. Poke and poke and poke and poke. Sometimes it could be worth giving her an upgrade that boosts her reaction. Her stream hacker is only 46, so it's not super reliable, but it's handy when it gets off, especially because it doesn't require a line of sight. She's very safe. So she's probably one of the things that it's easy to forget with her is because she doesn't require line of sight, she's going to be taking very little damage in the game. So chances are, towards the end of the game, she's going to be one of your units that's most likely on full health or 3 health. And she's got an excellent move, so she can charge out at the end of the game to capture an objective. So don't sacrifice her health too soon. Play the long game with her. Then we have the Glamorous Socialite. So she has 3 health and she only costs 5 points. So she is one of the cheapest specialists. Okay. And she's got, fairly solid ion beam gun, which does 5d6, blah, blah, blah. She's got negatives for reactions against her, and she can capture tricky stuff. The main one here is this weird stream the action, which allows an ally to move 5. Keep in mind that when free movements don't trigger reactions, and then one ally may use their reaction versus any target. So that doesn't have to be the same unit. You can have 1 move and 1 shoot, or 1 move and then shoot their reaction. Often reactions don't deal that much damage, particularly a single one. So she's not a big, she's like this really fine scalpel. You need to use her perfectly right and with a lot of thought, and if you can, she can just really annoy your opponent by just doing stuff that they can't stop. Okay. But yeah, good for the thinking type of player. I'd pair her up with a heavy machine gunner or someone with a really good reaction, like maybe a Nephilim spy or something like that. Someone who can really take advantage of this. Okay, next one's the Guardian Rancher. So this guy is your defensive specialist. He comes with 2 turret henchmen. You might want to get some extra turrets in there as well. So turrets don't move, but they can deploy closer. They have a good 4d6 reaction. They're cheap at 2 points, but he's got this junky long gun, which allows 2 allies to also attack with their reactions. So you just roll them with his 2d6 all together. And turrets come with a 4d6 attack, so if you can get some good line of sight, maybe even pair him. This is something that I like to do, is I like to pair him up with another unit who has the ability to destroy terrain. So this opens up line of sight and then allows your turrets and him to really dominate the battlefield. He's also got this this splash 1 attack. It's not super powerful, mostly because he's sitting at the back line, so he's not going to get to use it. It's more of a, if he needs to dash forward or he's lost his turrets, Okay. Sentinel. We're now getting into the Kaltorans. Okay, so Kaltorans love their dirty tricks and their high damage. They're a very aggressive playstyle, but they need to be a little bit careful with them not to overextend because they're not melee fighters and they're not tanks. Okay, so the Sentinel is probably one of the more defensive Kaltoran units, primarily because Watchdog. Okay, he allows allies himself to trigger reactions at the start of an enemy's action rather than the end. This makes him really hard to avoid. So often a unit might shoot and then duck behind cover. This allows you to trigger your reaction against him, against that unit. So yeah, Watchdog is solid for that. You're going to want a bunch of allies with a bunch of reaction. Good line of sight. Okay, you got Grandma. Grandma's frontliner. She's up in your face, 5 health. She only costs 6 points, which is standard cost, but she deals +1 damage versus full health units. Her scattergun has splash. There's a bunch of things that gain damage reduction or special abilities, except versus splash weapons. So she's got a solid melee. You basically want her up the front, and you basically just applying damage to everything she can to get that, to make maximum use of that +1. Don't use her to finish off things. Don't use her to like too much. Like how do you put this? Like, you want her to last, okay? And if she's activating, she's going to be triggering a reaction attack. So make sure you activate her to deal damage to units that are full health, and then use someone else to finish them off. Okay, and hopefully you get her in the middle and she'll be able to last a good time. Then you've got the Rambunctious Engineer. So good all-rounder. She has the Arcfire SMG, which is a fairly standard sort of a weapon. Good if you can get it up into people's face or catch people out of cover. But the big one is the Experimental Bomb. Okay, you need to be up close for this one. Does the 5d6 splash 2, which is great. But it also then allows one ally to trigger their reaction versus any target that you can see after your action. So this means she gets to throw the bomb, which is a good attack, and then an ally gets to trigger their reaction as well. So that's very excellent offensive power there. Then you have Glory Hog. So Glory Hog is a tricky unit, okay? Costs 4 points, has 4 health and 7 points, but you'll notice that he relies on being seen, okay? Splash to all enemies that you can see. So you charge him in the middle of a big group of enemies and he just shoots everyone, or does a big attack with Trick Shot 2d6, but then plus a d6 per unit that can see him. So this can also be allies, okay? Keep this in mind. It doesn't have to be enemies. But the problem with, towards the end of the game, you're going to rely on enemies seeing you to get those bonus dice. But the more enemies that can see you, the more reactions you're going to trigger. So you might want to give this unit like an upgrade that reduces reaction attacks against him or something. He's either going to be fantastic or he's going to just blow up in your face. I recommend holding him back just a little bit until the mid game, and then use him as a threat. Okay, forcing your enemy to spread out, and try and get some points value. Try and get some value out of him. That doesn't even rely on him as attacking. Just the threat of him can force your enemy to act differently. Okay, then we got the Dirtbag Vagabond. So this is a heavy machine gunner. So normally heavy machine gunners have a 46 reaction, which is the best in the game, one of the best in the game. But then a really not great attack value on the action. She's different. If she gets lucky, she rolls 46 and then gets damage, can roll another 46. Gets damage, can roll again, and this keeps going. She also has 5 health, so don't be afraid of getting her up. In like moving her up to get her into a good spot, even if she takes some damage. Don't be afraid of activating her. Sometimes even giving her an upgrade that increases her attack helps to trigger this, because you really want this to trigger. It's not always going to trigger, but when it does, it can deal huge amounts. So bit of a gamble there, but excellent for a Hail Mary attack. Like, yeah, I've seen Dirtbag swing games easily. Okay, then we get the Legion. So the Legion are tough and not that fast. They can also be a little bit expensive. They pay the points for that extra health. Okay, so you're probably going to want to make sure you want some henchmen with them to sort of help them cover more area, or give them probably more than a henchman. You actually want to give them a good leader. Like a corp goes really well with them, or someone that just grants them free movement. So these giant, big, beefy boys can just move up and lock down entire areas of the game. So the Elite Merc is your ultimate all-rounder. He just does everything. He has no downsides. Average reaction, good health, a great heavy Gorse assault rifle, and grenades that are good for like stunning people. He just does everything. Okay, if you want a unit, a specialist that just does all the things, this is your man. Okay, then you have the Merciless Brawler, melee fighter. So actually only 6 points for 6 health, which is really good. That's a really cheap 6 health. His bloody beatdown is his melee attack is 9d6, which is just fantastic. His pistol's not that great because it's only range 10. But then you've got feared and loathed. So this means that enemies near him suffer reduced reaction attacks. So you want to shove him up in people's face. And cover from his model doesn't prevent ally attacks. So this can be a big problem with you having a melee unit up against another enemy, is that your ally's default rule, by the default rules, you can't shoot past an ally if they're granting cover to an enemy. And they have to be touching to grant cover. But this guy can. Run him up base to base and use that 9d6 beat down to deal as much damage as you can. Then once he gets to about sort of 2 health, stop activating him and just let him sit there, reducing the enemy's reaction attacks, and then just use your allies to finish things off. Excellent initiator. Then we have the Titanic Gunner, one of the highest health characters in the game, 7 health, and good melee attack, excellent reaction. Not a great activation with his heavy machine gun, as it's only 46 and 2 move. But that 11 points is a stinger, okay? You want to stick him in the middle of the battlefield, getting as many, and put him up high where he can see as much stuff as he can, so his reaction can be constantly activating, forcing your opponent to attack him to try and deal with him, which he's got so much health, he's really difficult to remove. I like to put Taken Hold on him so that he can get onto an objective, and then he suffers less. Taken Hold keyword means that you suffer less damage if you're near an objective, so you might be able to get that from an upgrade, but that's 11 points is a tough one. I'd only take him if you're gonna get your money's worth out of him. If you leave him at the back, or if you're too cautious with him, if you don't get enough reactions out of him, he's just going to cost you. Okay, Grizzled Sharpshooter. This is the Legion leader. So he's a sniper, and he's good at shooting past allies. An okay attack that's not particularly great, but he has specials that grant allies movement, and this means that you can activate him to sort of ping off enemies, and then granting your force a little nudges forward. That 3 allies may move 2 is really good for sort of helping allies get over some difficult terrain, or just position them perfectly so they got a little more line of sight for their reaction. He has 8 points, which is, it's okay for his cost. It's not amazing value there though, so make sure you're using his free movement well. He's also a very good candidate for the tactical objective of protect the VIP, because often you want your VIP in the back line. This guy's going to be in the back line, plus he's got solid health, Plus, activating him allows allies to sort of move, which can come to his rescue if they need to. So he's a good choice for that one. Then we have the Ferocious Serbian Hound. This is another Legion unit and is probably such a good. I love this unit. He's 5 points, 4 health. His actions are not necessarily great. His pounce is okay, but the main one you want and it is this. Okay, so his reaction allows him to move 4 and an ally may move 4. So keep in mind that this movement is after you've made your reaction attack rolls, but he's so good. He's so good. If he's not dealt with, he can grant so much free movement to your team, which the Legion really need. They could do with all the movement they can get. So just excellent unit, excellent value, not for damage, but just pure utility. Okay, the Nephilim. So the Nephilim are an interesting faction because they are a faction of specialists. Each unit does their thing amazingly well, but you're going to have a problem is that they don't do the things that they're not geared towards, and if they're not used correctly, you're not going to get your value out of them, or if a key unit dies too early, that can just cause you an absolute headache. So the Gene Twister, 7 points, some average attack. She gets a funky little melee, which is kind of it's mostly amusing, especially if it's boosted. You do 4 times 2d6 to a henchman. It's just hilarious. But the main one is obviously this, Mastermind. You and your allies gain extra attack and movement per objective that you control, so you want to be very aggressive. If you can capture the objectives early and fast, it grants everybody a boost, which, as you can tell, this boost is excellent for multipliers. So this would be 4 times 2d6 attack if you've got one objective, or a multiple move might be like a 2 times 2 move becomes a 2 times 3 move. And if you've got 2 objectives or 3 objectives, you will steamroll the battlefield. So this guy is kind of like paying for an extra objective for yourself. Because you want to hide him in the back line, you're barely going to be attacking with him. He's basically there to grant a gigantic boost to your entire force. Okay, the Gargantuan, tough. He's just tough. Okay, not much to be said here. He's got this massive cannon that deals splash. I know that 2 times damage is kind of cool. That makes that 3d6, and if you got that boosted in some way, such as from the Gene Twister, he becomes amazing. But the big thing is got regeneration. Okay, makes him the toughest unit in the game. 6 health, can never lose more than 1 health from an attack. He's just solid. The enemy's got to chip away at him. Otherwise, towards the end of the game, they just will not be able to kill him. Really reliable too, because you know he's not going to suddenly die. Next unit is the Emissary Medic. All good all-rounder actions, good melee attack, and a blaster, but obviously mainly there for the flesh rejuvenation. So this enemy non-splash attacks suffer -1 d6 disadvantage against you and your allies within aura area. So sit her in the middle of the field, have that aura cover as much as you can. So it means all these reactions and little attacks are all going to just roll less dice against you. Very handy. Very handy. Tenebrous Spry, an offensive unit. So he's got Strangle and Bite is kind of this nasty melee attack. Toxic Dart is your main one you're going to be using, so immunity to reactions. You notice he's not got the best movement, so you might want to move him up some other way. But obviously the big one here is the reaction of 66. He's only got 3 health. Keep that in mind. But if you make use of that reaction, well, just so amazing. Especially units that grant free reaction attacks. That's what you want. Get him up close. Have him hide a little bit. Don't make him too visible, and just he'll lock down an area. Ruthless Bully, he is a melee unit, effectively. Mainly's got his threaten. So allies gain an extra attack versus enemies that are close to him. So again, you want to stick him up the middle, right up near a bunch of enemies. Don't activate him too often. Mainly he's there to boost your allies' attacks. Okay, Palantir. So the Palantir are funky because none of them have any reactions. Okay, but they have some of the best actions and special abilities in the game. Make sure you want to give them some henchmen so they can get some extra defensive reactions. So this guy is effectively a summoner. Comes with 2 warrior henchmen. If you die, they die, but then he's got Brainstorm where he can regain a lost hollow hand. So you basically summon them back. There's these melee units that are very tough. He's great for just getting him down the middle of the field. He's very, very strong. He summons strong things, and he can just hold an objective. Then you have the Immortal Blue Spark. Some funky actions here. Pay attention to some weird special abilities like doesn't require line of sight and double damage here. But obviously the big one here is reassemble body. So redeploy yourself after you die. Reset your health. So yeah, she's only got 3 health, but if you shoot her, she's just going to come back again and come back again and come back again. So don't be afraid to activate her regularly and often. Maybe give her an upgrade. Maybe give her 2 upgrades. Use her a lot. And if the enemy is focusing her down, then she's going to redeploy. The big tricky thing you need to keep in mind is that redeploying is going to be all the way back at your back line. So you're going to want to give her some ability to move forward. Okay, so after she's sort of respawned, that you can get her back out there again. Especially near the end of the game, she can be very powerful when everyone's sort of lost most of their units or their health down. She can be at full health and this beast. But risky, because it can cost you a lot of points, especially if you're giving her double action upgrades. And if you can't move her forward fast enough, she's going to be a liability. Okay, Hot Shot. 3 health, 7 points. Tricky, does not require line of sight unit, but has gun down. Excellent finish. Is a finisher off. Okay, she just kills things that are on 1 health. So if something's on 1 health, activate her, ping, it dies. Then use your other units. Use her just at the last bit. So rocket kick is not restricted by terrain, so you can quickly jump her to the area so she's within 13 of the enemy unit on 1 health, and then just poof, dead. Okay, very strong. Yeah. Okay, the MVP Deadeye. So here's the only one with a reaction. It's a 1d6 reaction, so it's not amazing. I don't know if that counts. But the big one that this guy got is the plasma rifle, which allows him to do an additional attack after he kills an enemy unit. So you can shoot, dead, and then take another shot, another finisher off unit. He's quite good. Really good for like taking out turrets and lots of henchmen, which it can be a bit of a problem for the Palantir, is dealing with too much enemy health. He can really assist with that one. Okay, then you've got the Hacker, a funky utility character with 3 actions, which is basically all of them have special abilities like you're immune to reaction, or damaged units may not activate. So it's a bit of a long shot there. Or the Mayhem Network, which allows you to draw line of sight or draw range from allies. Okay, so he's pretty good. Could just do a lot of funky stuff. Keep in mind he's only got 3 health. He's only 5 points, but good value. Good value. Bit of a risky unit, but excellent value for that 5 points. Okay, the Remnant. So the Remnant are a force of all-rounders. They're with some pretty tough stuff in there. So they can often be a little bit weaker in the early game. But they can be quite strong in the late game once that sort of durability is sort of providing some dividends. Good unit for a good force for someone who's sort of just learning, I think. I feel like Kaltorans and the Remnant are probably good sort of new forces to get into. They're not as complicated. So the Divine Warrior is just an all-rounder. He just does everything. He shoots, he stabs, got an average reaction, average health, average cost. Okay. He's also gets a bit tricky with his move, because that extra double move can be quite handy with terrain or sort of peeking out of cover as shooting and then peeking back. Yeah, then you've got the Psionic Gunfighter. So her reaction allows her to move. And she's got a Mind Blast that doesn't require line of sight, so she's quite tricky and durable on there, but kind of still pretty average in terms of damage ability. Then you have the Shielding All Monk. So, melee attack, solid health. The All Shield means he's more resistant to henchmen, and he grants himself, like, you and allies always have cover, okay? Just kind of, it gives him an edge, okay? Missile Reflect is quite interesting in that usually it's just going to be a fairly normal attack. Attacking things with a 2d6 reaction means he's got a 5d6 attack, which is just normal, but great anti-heavy machine gunner, okay? Because you turn those really high reactions back on the enemy. So 4d6 becomes a 9d6 for him. So yeah, good, solid unit. Then you have the Mind Piercer. So Lay Crystal Shards, pretty normal attack. The Dominate is tricky there. So again, this is the using the enemy reactions for your advantage sort of thing. It has a fair bit of flexibility. You can also do some enemy movement there. She also has a solid reaction of 3d6. Okay, I like her. She's a good damage dealer. She's got some utility in there. Good reaction. Okay health. Okay price. Good unit. Okay, Echo Curse. So this is probably the only unit I would say that is particularly strange for the Remnant. But not that hard to use. So basically, it's a 5-point specialist with 2 health, with average actions, but the main thing is, it just keeps coming back. So every time a unit dies, you can redeploy it, even if it's already out. It comes back with 1 health, and it's annoying. It's annoying. It's this ghost is just going to keep coming back and just pinging at your enemy or trying to get their attention. It's like, shoot me, and it's just going to come back. Yeah, Echo Curse. I like it. It's easy to use. It's so easy to use. You can't muck up the Echo Curse. Good to pair with. That's just useful because you can build a force that's like, if your units die or the enemy units die, chances are that's going to be happening, and it's going to be coming back, and you're going to be deploying it in the most annoying spots. Okay, then we have the Twyfar. So Twyfar, high damage, high movement, low health. They are glass cannons. Okay, oddly enough, the Burning Epheretti is actually probably one of the tougher ones. But don't be deceived. 3 health, suffers -1 damage, which is amazing because, like, the enemy's got to deal 2 damage in an attack against you to get your health down, but has some funky actions. Blazing Assault, you can spend health, which for this guys, that's a significant spending, can grant you an amazing movement of rather 2 times 4 becomes 2 times 7, and a 4d6 becomes an 8d6 attack. So you just get him exactly where he wants with a giant attack. Firestorm is splash 6, so he just, like, big fire from the heavens, can clear out an area. Excellent anti-henchman. Yeah, he's just so aggressive. Azure Farron. This is the tank unit in the Twyfar. So it teleports to a location, uses 6 health, and grants allies near it extra attack. Put him in the middle, put him right there on an objective, maybe with the take and hold upgrade. It's very expensive though, 9 points. Wanderer, quintessential Twyfar. Okay, big attacks. And yeah, she just loves blasting stuff. Just really good. This fiery beam is a 7d6, but she's just good. She's easy to use. She just deals damage. She's quite flexible with her movement and her shooting. Yeah. Looking through this, I'm kind of thinking maybe Twyfar aren't quite as frail as I originally designed them to be. So, Starguide Mystic. This grants all of your allies additional movement. She's just a good sort of booster on that way, helping you move forward. Her attacks are not great. They're okay. Yeah, no, she's good. Okay. Nomad Merchant. So this guy's a bit funky in that he acts like an upgrade, in that the cards placed adjacent to him gain a boost. And you can excellent to pair him with other strong units with strong special abilities or multiple attacks. Also, he's got 5 health. Don't be afraid to use him. He can shoot stuff, okay? His phase beam SMG gets nasty when it's close range. Yeah. Okay. Then we have the Zhao. So the Zhao are melee fighters and have a lot of strange powers. They are that old saying of no plan ever survives contact with the enemy, doubly so when you're fighting with the Zhao. They're just really good for just mucking up your opponent's plans. Your opponent has to play on your terms when they're fighting the Zhao. So this guy's big thing is he's a melee unit who's excellent at finishing off enemies on low health, and he's immune to most reactions. He's also only 5 points, but he is going to be up in your opponent's face a lot, which then means his immunity to reactions will stop working as regularly. So kind of time him well. Don't hit too early with him. You want to keep him alive until the late game when everything's hurt and he's going to be getting a lot of attack boosts. Yeah. Okay, Ravenous Beast. Big, fat blob that charges the enemy, and when it dies, it explodes and out pops 2 henchmen. It's a bomb. It's a giant bomb. Okay. A giant tanky bomb that you want to charge right up the middle and just beg to be attacked. If the opponent attacks you, good for you. If it doesn't attack you, then you bite him back. Okay, Gravbender, tricky unit here. As you can move terrain. He just grabs terrain and shifts it and throws it or moves it out of the way. And it's got a vortex blast which moves the enemy. This guy is just annoying, okay? In that how the battlefield looks at the start of the game is not how it's going to look at the end when he's on the field. Okay, the unscrupulous Chrome Doctor. Some pretty average sort of attacks. Again, great boost versus enemies that are missing health, but the big one is the Biophage Mist. Anti-melee unit, okay? He is good for, like, don't deploy him at the start of the game too early. Hold off so you can counter deploy to the enemy's melee units, so you can make them pay for charging you. You could also use the other Zhao to sort of move enemies out of his aura and then tempt them to move back in. Keep in mind, it's when the enemy chooses to enter or leave the aura area. So if you're moving them in and out, they're not suffering damage. Not great range on this guy, though. Keep that in mind. Hunger Mad Stowaways. So some fairly, okay, sort of close range attacks there. But the big one is that it allows your allies to deploy 4 closer. So your whole army, including your turrets, if you have them as out, which is kind of a funny idea, are just got to move closer to the enemy. He does cost 8 points, and he doesn't come with a reaction, so pricey. But if you really, really want to make sure that you can move up as fast as possible to either capture key terrain or to melee into your opponent, quite handy. Okay, then we have the Outlaws, who's a Toladdle. The Outlaws, they kind of take a unit from all the different factions. They generally tend to be just very aggressive. They shoot stuff. They're often high damage units, very in your face. The Wild Captain here is a tricky unit. He has 3 health and 5 points. Pretty cheap and pretty frail. Has 2 different reactions, so you can choose which one you're going to activate, which is handy. But the main thing is he's good at getting people off objectives because he gets such a massive bonus to attack people that are near objectives because he wants it. He wants the plunder. So don't waste him early game. He's great late game. You want to keep him alive, okay, until after about turn 12. Then you want to start using him to just cleaning up the opponent, those that are sitting on objectives. And his reactions give him a lot of flexibility with that one. Okay, and he's only 5 points, okay? But if the enemy gets a drop on him, catches him unaware, he can quickly vanish. Okay, then we have the mascot. So the mascot's a bit of a weird specialist, in that, yeah, costs 1 point, has 1 health, and keeps coming back to life when he dies. And I would recommend that basically every single force have a mascot. Like, they're just so useful. And they can grant little attack boosts to your allies. It's kind of also, the main thing is that sort of allows you to add some character to your team. So to pick a mascot that you think fits the vibe of your force. Okay, now we're getting into henchmen. So Sensor Blip is not really a henchman. It's effectively, it's not really a unit. It's more like you're buying a token to stealth one of your other units up. Okay, so you'll deploy this at the start of the game, and then when it dies or gets revealed, you will put another unit which will take its place. If you take multiple sensor blips, means you can actually have a fair bit of flexibility. So let's say you take 3 sensor blips and you put 3 units in reserve. 1 sensor blip goes down, you get to pick which one of those 3 replaces it. So you can get units just where you want them to be. So that's handy. But look, they can go down quickly, and if they're not used well, that also means you're not getting reaction attacks from them. So they're good. You just need to be there for being clever. Okay, Bastion, he's basically a bodyguard. Also, I'm showing a model that I haven't yet revealed on the Patreon, so coming in the future. Basically just great for putting next to a specialist that you really want to keep alive. Okay, forcing your opponent to kill the Bastion before they kill the unit that they're guarding. Okay, turrets and heavy gunners. Basically, these guys are your big reaction units. Okay, so obviously turret stationary, 1 health. But the heavy gunner has 3 health, which is high for a henchman, 46. Very useful. I'd use the heavy gunner, especially if you've got specialists that grant free reactions. Yeah. Okay. Then you got your melee units, your assault and your warrior. So effectively, your assault is your killy dude. 2 points for 2 health. Your warrior is more like your tanky melee unit. Yeah. Okay. Then you have the hordes and the bombard. So these are a little bit more like tokens that you're moving forward. The horde is effectively a wall. Okay, just really, really, really tough if the opponent doesn't have a splash weapon. They're just to be annoying, force the opponent to shoot them before they get up in their face, because each of these get free movement, so they're going to be creeping forward. And then the bombard is effectively a giant big targeting laser that's moving around the map. And if your opponent doesn't deal with it, it is then just going to go boom and shoot something. So good for like being a threat. Okay, these are great distractions to buy you the early game. Okay, but keep in mind they're not capturing objectives. They're not going to be around late game. But they're good for like if you're worried about the early game. These guys are, especially the bombard. These will help give you an edge on that one. Okay, marksman. Another unit, another model that I haven't yet revealed to the Patreon. So these guys, backliners, providing a solid reaction. They're mainly there for their 3d6 reaction. Covering them, put them up high, give them lots of line of sight. Don't activate them, just let them shoot reactively. Okay, soldiers. These are your grunt soldiers or recons. These are your line troopers. So every force I'd recommend have some of these. Okay, they are just your all-rounders, but they're all-rounders in slightly different ways. So your grunt has 3 health, which is amazing, but they're a little slower. The soldier has a splash weapon, but also its reaction, you can see, has movement on it. Okay, so reliable to be able to move forward. Recon, which is probably actually my favorite one. Main one here is it comes with pistol, which allows 2 allies to move 3. So this is a great unit for ensuring that your units are always where they should be. Okay, and getting them off the back line, moving them around cover, moving them in or out of terrain. It's just the recon is kind of like your insurance policy. But the grunt is obviously, if you can get the grunt up into the enemy's face and they have 3 health, that's 50% more health than the rest of them. So if you've got other abilities to sort of move your henchmen forward, the grunt may be a good choice. Yeah, soldiers is also like just a very safe all-rounder. Can't go wrong. Okay, Grenadier. So Grenadier is 4 health, 3 health, 4 points. And it's an okay unit. The main one is it has grenade launcher. Splash 3 attack that doesn't require line of sight. This is your insurance policy against enemy blobs. If the enemy just takes a big bunch of henchmen, this is your insurance against that. Because that can win entire games. If opponent just takes 10 grunts, they are so difficult to deal with your specialist. You can have all the funky tricks if you want. They just have so many reactions and so much health that they can win games. You need something that counters that, okay? You need splash. Grenadier is the ultimate counter because it's splash 3, okay? He's also really good if the opponent gets up into his face, okay? That shotgun and his reaction can do some okay work. Yeah. Okay. Then you have your operatives and your agents. So these units are not there for shooting. They are for taking objectives. So they've taken hold. This means that if they're on an objective, doesn't matter how many opponents are on the objective, they just take it unless they have taken hold. They count as 10 units, effectively, for capturing objectives. They also suffer -1 damage when they're near an objective. The counter to them is the assassin. Sorry, it's cut out the bottom there. He's got a 3d6 reaction, 2 health. But his main thing is he's got +1 damage versus taken hold. He just counters those units, okay? He's not that great. Otherwise, 3 points for some fairly average actions and health. He's just there to basically counter taken hold. Could be handy taking one assassin, just to be sure. Then we've got upgrades. Okay, so these are your deployment upgrades here. Okay, so reserves means that you get to put 3 henchmen into reserve, not deployed at the start of the game, and then you get to slowly deploy them throughout the game. Okay, so not only does this save you 3 points, which is probably an extra henchman, it also means that these henchmen can be put where you need them, especially after the 15th turn. It can go on any game edge, including your opponent's game edge. So if you really want a backliner, but keep in mind that's right near the end of the game. Then you have like Drop Trooper, who can just deploy anywhere pretty much on the field. And then you've got Disrupt, which makes an enemy unit hold back. And then Flank can grant extra movement. Holographic decoys is a way of sort of making people not quite sure where you're deployed. Okay. Then we have, this is extra good for helping you move. So squad leader's great if you've got a big bunch of henchmen of the same type. They can sort of move as a group. You'll learn to fear splash weapons with this upgrade. Then you've got like commanders and stuff like that, which grants a movement. Last stand and take and hold ground is a great way to get taken hold onto a unit. And then move together is sort of an alternative to squad leader. It's good if you're a little more spread out there. Okay. Then we have, these are more like your battlefield modifying upgrades here. So Wreck lets you destroy terrain, and then Mines lets you sort of slowly put down minefields, which the hazardous terrain deals a 4d6 attack on your opponents. Okay. Then we have just some sort of general all-rounder, sort of slightly tricky upgrades. Then we've got some damage dealing upgrades here of your attacks. Just gain extra versus high health, low health, but then you can discard the upgrade to just deal +1 damage right when you need it. Your reactions get an extra attack. Sharpshooter just gives you advantage versus lower elevation. Good to put on a sniper, target painter, and suppression fire is a good way of like pinning down an opponent who's just causing you a lot of grief, okay, forcing them to retreat. Then we have Smoke Bomb. So tricky to use this one because it stops reactions. Okay, so shrouded terrain doesn't stop line of sight for actions, only for reactions. So this is handy to put on a unit who doesn't actually make use of reactions. Get them to move up, deploy the smoke bomb, but then you also get to pair that with multispectral visor for like the person in the back can still shoot through the smoke. Okay, so that's handy. Then you've got this one is if you just want a specialist who's just going to be amazing. You just want the main player character who's just going to get better and better as long as you can keep them alive. Kind of fun. Okay. Then you've got the pairing a specialist with a henchman sidekick. This is just kind of they each give each other a boost while the other one is alive. Then you've got this one here is a way of giving, Elite is a way of giving reactions to units without reactions. So it just gives a very average reaction to a unit, okay? Keep in mind you can only ever trigger one reaction per unit at a time. So if they've already got a reaction, you'll have to pick which one you activate. Then we got the tactical mission card. So all of us taking one of these is going to remove generally one of the objectives in the middle of the battlefield. So this is basically your punch through, sort of get to the enemy deployment edge options here. Then you've got, this is the inverse of that. So sort of hold the line and that puts an objective basically on your deployment edge. Costs you 3 points though. And then secure puts down 2 additional unmodified objective markers. And rather than 3, there'll be 5 objectives in the middle of the field. So this is good if you feel like you've got lots of take and hold who can sort of spread out and grab that stuff. But keep in mind, you can only have 1 agent or operative. But the other unit that this one goes really well with is the Gene Twister, as he loves capturing objectives because he gets that boost. That makes his ability a lot easier to trigger as well. Then we have Protect VIP and Assassinate. They're basically just the inverse of each other. So one, pretty self-explanatory. Just makes one of your units an objective, or an enemy unit an objective. So Dominate this is great for if you've got a very small, high health force. Okay, very defensive sort of team here, but keep in mind you've still got to kill. You can't just be too defensive. You've got to actually take out some enemy units here. This is a good one if you just want to take a big team of specialists. Dominate's a great one, especially if you're Legion. These ones give you a boost when you capture an objective. So the first one, Treasure makes the unit that captures the thing even better after they've got it. And this one helps you to gain additional henchmen. So, which is also extra useful because you're going to deploy the henchman on an objective marker, which then helps you hold the objective marker. Then we have the NPCs. So this is if you want to start your okay. So 2 types of players might want to take these ones. One, the story. Hey, we don't like doing PvP as much as we like doing PvE sort of thing. Or if you build a particular force to fight the units that are going to be deployed. So the unexpected foes allows you, it's basically a bunch of 1 health NPCs are going to start spawning around the battlefield as the game goes on. And then Nemesis is the game starts with 1 giant big boss, okay, who is just going to hold an objective very annoyingly. And you kind of going to need to kill him if you're going to capture it. So, or sneak in under him and get it. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is all of the the various cards for Double Tap. I'm really looking forward to getting this out into people's hands. So much work has gone into all of this, and I think it's a great game. It's a lot of fun to play. I'm really looking forward to the various forces that people come up with. There's a lot of tactical depth there. If you were reading the rule book and you thought, these rules are really light, I think this game might not be for me. It might not provide enough meat. The cards will provide you the meat, the units, the upgrades, the tacticals. That's where the tactical meat is. And you can select some simpler units if you want a sort of more of a lighter rules game, or we can go really complex and take all the weird ones and try and piece it together, a perfect odd team of mismatch from all different factions. Okay, take care, everyone.